let's plunge into our next panel discussion. I am honored to moderate an inspiring session titled Cloud Frontiers, Women Leaders Defining the Next Era of Cloud Innovation. This segment shines a spotlight on the magnificent women who are not just participants, but formidable architects in the realm of technology. Join me in welcoming a constellation of leaders, Ms. Puneet Kaur Kohli, a beacon in insurance tech, Lekha Bajpai fostering aspirations that aspire for her, and Ms. Mayurakshi Ray safeguarding digital realms with her cybersecurity expertise. Let's dive into a riveting exploration of transformative vision and leadership. Well, we also have Ms. Toral Desai, Associate Director with 18 years of experience in IT, LTIMindtree. Can we welcome all the panelists with a huge round of applause, ladies and gentlemen? All right, before we quickly begin with our panel discussion, may I request you, ladies, it's an honor to be here with you, and I have this wonderful opportunity of moderating the session. I would request you to quickly give your introduction to each one of us.
Toral here. I work with LTIMindtree, and I'm here today for addressing cloud-related topics.
Good evening, everyone. This is Mayurakshi Ray with a 25 plus years of experience in cybersecurity and risk management. I've worked on both sides of the table, being a consultant, being a CISO, being a CXO, and now I'm back to doing advisory as well as I sit on the board of directors of companies. And it's a pleasure, really. Thank you, SME Ventures, for inviting me on this session.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Dr. Puneet Kaur Kohli. I come with the 26 years of experience. I have been represented as CIO and CTO and with many companies as a board of director on the women inclusivity side. And I'm here. Thanks for the opportunity.
Hi, I'm Lekha Bajpai. I have been in the IT industry for more than 30 years now. Currently, I'm working with a startup. Before that, I was working in Cantar, which is a market research company. But I decided to get onto a startup. I wanted to have an experience of startup and help them in setting up their technology platforms. So I'm working with Aspire for her.
That was wonderful, and we have such an exciting luminaries on the panel here. My very first question to you, Ms. Puneet Kohli. Please shed some light on influential role of cloud technologies in shaping strategic directions and operational innovations in your respective, domain.
Thank you for that question. So as far as the cloud readiness is concerned, I think cloud readiness is the need of the hour today. As far as my representation in different companies that I've served, cloud has played a very big role. So as far as the acceptability for India ecosystem, it is a bit delayed because of the regulatory constraints and the data hosting of especially the customer details or the customer PII data. So I would say that if we go back to maybe almost a decade, it talks about the cloud readiness approach, and where we find that the localization of data with respect to customer centricity should be in an on-prem model, and the traditional ways that the middleware or the transactional platforms could be on cloud, but the customer data should be always either localized in the country or probably maybe the in-house data centers. Now we going back, and then with the BFSI sector, we have a huge dependency on the monolithic applications, which is like I don't want to name like the PAS system for like my companies like general insurance companies of the world, which is policy admin systems, and we have a huge dependency on monolithic architectures. Though if the companies or the SMEs are not ready, but we as a company has to take a stringent view that how the architecture or a future readiness would be in terms of many peripheral application or the sourcing applications in terms of transactions. So in the current ecosystem, what we have done, either we take a lift and shift model. If the people or the SMEs are not ready, then definitely there is a connect where we take our people with the core skill set and help those companies in helping us in doing the lift and shift model, so that we can at least adopt a universal approach in terms of front-end and back-end systems. So this is something which is today almost being practiced across Asia markets or the global approach. We are one of those companies today which is 100% on AWS. Because of not that we are everything on SaaS model, but we have taken a very stringent step in telling that everything 100% on cloud. But at least the same time, we have to see that how our architecture, which talks about the front-end architecture or enterprise business architecture, talks to the different systems. And we have to see that at each and every stage, how do we optimize so that the BAU and the transformation works coexist together, and we don't incur huge of tech debts. So that is something which has to go like the way we have to maintain a balance between transformation and BAU. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, ma'am. You've given a detailed elaboration on cloud readiness approach. Now, there's an important part to it, which comes to cybersecurity, and we have none other than Mayurakshi Ray. Ma'am, please, we would like to hear from you. Approaches and strategies towards maintaining stringent security and compliance standards in cloud implementations.
Thank you. So, I think companies across the globe and in India started adopting cloud mostly from building the operational efficiency. That a cloud gives you the opportunity of pay as you use, and you have the flexibility to not have those infrastructure on-prem, and you do not have to block all that capital expenditure and do that. But at the same time, with every efficiency comes a risk, and I remember in the company that I was there, this was around 2012, 13 I think, when the cloud was first getting discussed, and we decided one of the things was to go for a O365. From Outlook. So that was the first cloud adoption that company was going. I was then a CISO with the company. So, and it was a company which was a US-based company. So there was a requirement of, some bit of SOCs. There was a requirement definitely of SSA 16, which later became SSA 80 and now SOC 2, right? So, we started with, designing from the policy level, doing a risk framework, assessing what could be the risks, which cloud provider we should go on, options were less. So, that is where we started, from the policies, from a risk assessment. These are as important now. But now, with the proliferation of cloud technologies, there is a requirement to understand first the shared responsibility model. So what it means is that in any cloud adoption, there are two parties. One is the cloud service provider and another is the customer. And cloud always works in a shared responsibility model. Most companies do not understand that, a part of that responsibility, even if you have moved to the cloud, stays with you to manage and protect yourself. And manage and protect the crown jewel, which is data. So data always stays your responsibility. Security of data on the cloud stays your responsibility. Security of how you configure the cloud infrastructure, the applications you are moving to the cloud, the access that you are defining to people who will who will access those data and applications on the cloud. So how you are defining the identity and access of people. All these aspects have to be taken care by the company, and it requires a very stringent policy. It requires a very stringent strategy to decide. And shadow IT had always been a problem. With the cloud also, that is a problem, because many departments tend to quickly take a cloud app for their convenience without notifying the central IT or notifying the CISO office. They do not think that if you are trying to access a cloud app, you are moving your data, you are allowing the company's people to access it, you have to first ensure that it is secure, that all the whatever it is, the workloads or even the the buckets or whatever, the configurations are as per the company's overall policy. So the posture management, the data security posture management, the infrastructure posture management, all of that needs to be taken care of. And with cloud, where actually data can be anywhere. That is the very concept of cloud. You need to be doubly careful than in an on-prem system to ensure that you are looking at all the security aspects and ensure and managing that. So access, key, workloads, configuration, all of these factors.
Thank you, Ms. Ray, for briefly outlining, details on cloud security. My next question, I would like to ask Toral ma'am. Talk about insights in future cloud technology advancement and trends that you see in the orbit.
Okay. Cloud is, I would say, need of an hour, right from your home Alexa to your country's defense system, right? And I would like to share one of my experience where we have implemented a cloud system for one of our prime client, where we went live for more than 27 countries at the same time, respecting their country's regulations. So cloud comes with a lot of risk along with implementation. At the same time, cloud is making your user at ease. Users are, your God, and users are your God. So I would like to share one of the experience on same note. We have implemented, gone live for one of client, and there was very first incident arise after hypercare period started, and like I just stopped my breathing that time. That what happened? We just gone live, and what happened to the system? So the incident was the job of FI data was not started. That was the incident, and I spoke to my team member, and we have seen that the job used to take more than 24 hours of a time, got completed into 13 hours. So this is something cloud brings on table. Yes, when we are stepping out of our home, we are carrying risk. At the same time, same goes with your cloud system also. When you're stepping out of your data center, you have to take care of your risk. Mr. Sanjay rightly said, and you were also mentioning about data classification and some other risk we have to take care. At the same time, there are much more important things as an end user demanding from you, and cloud, in nutshell, cloud is the one thing you can get solution of all user related problems.
All right, thank you. I'll move on to the next question, which goes to Ms. Lekha Bajpai, the CTO of Aspire for her. You spent so many years, ma'am, in the industry, in technology. We would like to know your insights into your experience and expertise in managing cloud technology and the future trends.
Okay, so as I said, I was in Kantar, which has huge amount of data. We sit on data everywhere. It flows everywhere, I should say. Small segments of data here and there. So when I joined IMRB, which is now Kantar, we did not have a proper data center. It was pieces of data everywhere. As I said, data was flowing out from all corners, and I don't think there was any security and all those things. But slowly over the period, and I'm talking about some 15 years back, finally got everything centralized, set up our data center, which is on-prem, because those days cloud was not the preferred mode. Now I've entered a startup, and I find cloud, it's a cloud-first environment. So there is no thought about an on-prem thing. But from that on-prem side, over the period, we realized that it's not scalable. The scalability of it is when I have another piece of data which is coming in up, and I have to fuse some data sets, and I have to give a report instantly out. It's a nightmare. It used to be a big nightmare for me, because I know my servers might not be able to take it, processing would not be possible. And that's where we decided we should move over to the cloud. Slowly over the period, we moved everything to the cloud. we could manage to get all our applications moved. Before COVID, we managed to get all our applications on cloud, and it was really a blessing in disguise, because we could the day the announcement of the lockdown happened, the next, everyone of course went back to work. Within the next day, we were back to work, working from homes. The VPN could be set up, and an entire thing could be performed. So with secured access, with the endpoint security and everything, we could get our access to our data because everything was on the cloud. With this thing growing, the amount of data sets we used to get, we started doing some sort of, as an example, say one piece of information which came to us was doing some image analysis work. We said, this was during our on-prem days. So we said, oh, it's very simple. This is a TensorFlow thing. We can do it very fast. So all the developers are very excited. When we started running it, that's the time when we realized, oh, the problem is going to be our infrastructure. And immediately we decided to move it back to the cloud and had a lot of success. So definitely we saw a big movement from on-prem to the cloud, and getting on to doing a lot of analytics activities which we could do on the cloud, and getting APIs from various places. So from a future perspective, it is getting to if we have some right now in the place where I am, we want to connect back to the rural communities to see how do we get to communicate with them. And earlier the keynote speaker spoke about Bhashini. I was trying to explore Bhashini. Of course, I wanted to meet him, but he left. I want an API with Bhashini, and I'm sure Government of India is going to open that up. It's going to be so exciting. Instead of just developing on the technologies which have been developed outside the country, something which is inside the country, and I'm exploring that and seeing how I can connect with the rural community through through mobile phones. So getting onto the use of APIs is something which is very exciting. It's like not only you are building your own stuff internally, you are actually leveraging the entire infrastructure and connecting with them. Of course, with secured means, you're connecting with them and trying to utilize. And that's what is going to be the future, where there'll be a lot of integrations across various platforms to see how could be a multi-cloud environment, and that's where the future looks like. It's everyone is moving to a multi-cloud environment, and that's where the integrations would be very well possible, and we can take things further also.
Thank you, ma'am. I think the future is definitely cloud. Moving on to Ms. Puneet again. Ma'am, you work in BFSI. You have to deal with a lot of data, right? What is your approach and strategy towards maintaining security and compliance?
First and foremost, data governance plays a very big role. So the one is the consumerization of data. Tech depends, basically tech facilitates the data. But within the BFSI, the stakeholders who are the ultimate consumers of this data play a very vital role. Now, talking about in insurance that we represent, our underwriting rules, logics plays a very big role. The predictability, the basically cross-sell, upsell, all these are certain data models that, we have to do some age-old analysis in terms of this. So when IT facilitates the data, we really have to see which departments can be the co-sponsors in terms of, facilitating and would be consuming this data, and up to what extent. So something which is in terms of regulatory bodies, which we talk about in general insurance space, we have like the 3 different lines of business, whether say about motor, health, or probably retail segment, or we are into institutional business. And also from a commercial perspective, like there's the engineering, fire, and all that stuff. So there are like almost all in totality are 10 lines of business that we represent. And in this, probably we have the channels who represent in terms of which target market to approach. And with so much of competition and regulatory, so the data is something where we need to have basically a data governance in place. So when we talk about data, what comes out, what comes in, so those days have gone. people have moved on from enterprise data warehousing to a data lakes concept. And with data lakes concept, we talk about small independent data as a service. So when we say that today we have a certain regulatory requirement, we have to something upload to the open API architectures, or something like you talk about Vahan integration and all that stuff, which is a need of the hour today. We have to do that. We cannot even foresay that we don't want, because there is a plethora of make and models available. Only if you talk about model of motor is industry. In India, almost 40 plus OEMs are there. OEMs in the motor and, GCV, PCV, or good carrying, or the tractors business, EV, electronic vehicles have been launched now. So every day is a new model being launched. So what we do, we have a lot of dependency on this data where we consume the APIs under the open services architecture. We have a lot of microservices and segmentation of the engines that we talk about. So the day when there was that applications was going on the cloud, but the approach is now function as a service. So we talk about today, I'm talking that I want to build up something like a rule engine for my underwriting, for my pricing, my rating. So if I have to change, it has to be lying outside my policy system and has to seamlessly talk as one standardization where we implement it, consumes. So this becomes a part of data standardization into data governance. It plays a very big role. So that the predictive modeling in terms of, like we just talked about loss ratio or something which actuarials have to do, it all talks about from different predictive and prescriptive analysis. And when they will be able to decide that, what is the 1x and the 5x growth. So this is something which plays through data today. And even regulatory bodies are also finding that, we should have a centralized data department. It is no more a tech enablement only. It is the data which resides central of any company. They should be knowing who are the real custodians of the data, what is the data models, how to use the data for data, the data analysis, and what are the insights that we coming out of it. So I think so we have just started that journey. Thank you.
All right, ma'am, thank you. Since you mentioned data governance, any quick learning or advice to the startups in terms of security? I'm actually asking. No. I'm asking Kohli, ma'am. Yeah. Because you mentioned about data governance. So
Yes.
any, a learning or an advice to small startups, right? What is the important or any learning, probably which could help them as well?
Yeah, so startups are taking, a major shift in terms of, from on-prem to the cloud, all of them. So cloud readiness in terms of data protection, because now the new data protection bill is also out, which talks about PI data encryption, right? At the same time, not only consumer data, but also the financial transaction also talk about, it has to be the journal, the typical journal ledgers of the company back end, whether it is Oracle, SAPs or anything. That also has to be hosted. If they are on a SaaS model, that also has to have a localization in India. That is the new concept and the new thing that we talk about. Startups have to ensure that, whether they go with any cloud approach, but what are the agreements that they are signing? The body where they're hosting, the localization of that in terms of consumer data should be in the home country. They should have the hosting models should be there. They should have a governance mechanism where they should see the body certified as certain past, and plus what are the workloads, the billing cycles that they're running, whether they are running over here or the org that they are running, basically the CRMs and all, are they hosted in India or not? That is something which they should have a private, this is called private access agreements, which is called PPA. In spite of having global accounts, they can leverage the global discount, whether they are from US or India. But PPA is something where they, if that is concerned in India, they should have this agreement within India with an Indian body. So that they give you a commitment that your org for data hosting is lying within India.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for sharing that with us. My next question to Ms. Ray, considering the evolving cybersecurity landscape, what advanced security strategies would you recommend to protect multi-cloud environments for emerging trends?
So I think, as the entire cloudscape is maturing, it is actually moving from a single cloud to a hybrid cloud and a multi-cloud. Now, multi-cloud only increases the complexity in the fact that, like I talked about previously, the shared model, that in the shared model you have too many people with whom you are sharing, right? With somebody you might be taking a hosting service, somebody you might be taking an infrastructure service, somebody you might be taking a SaaS or a application service and all of that, which means that some part of your data, some and part of your workforce are actually accessing. Data is flowing, there is a transfer that is happening. So while you are designing your strategy, it starts with the strategy, and even regulatory frameworks like RBI had one. Now SEBI has, in June or July 2023, come up with a revised model for cloud security for their, regulated, for the entities which are under SEBI. And they say that it starts with strategy, comes to the governance that Puneet also talks about, then comes into the then comes into the risk assessment, right? And then comes into the policy, the key management, the identity and access management frameworks. And one of the important things in the operational space is resilience, right? So all of these aspects are very important in a multi-cloud environment. First, start with having the strategy. Why multi-cloud? Which cloud providers I should take? Localization, as Puneet said, for the Indian regulated entities is very important. Maybe for non-regulated entities, we still have that flexibility to choose any cloud provider. I don't have a localization hardship to really consider. But if you have a localization, your strategy and then the kind of agreement you are signing should talk about all the strategies, should very clearly define the responsibility of the CSP, the cloud service provider, vis-a-vis me. Then, in the risk framework, you should, identify that, there is a lot of difference between a cloud which is given by the giants like a Google or an Amazon to a cloud given by a smaller service provider, right? There is a flexibility, but there is also a cost, and there is also a security aspect to consider. So your multi-cloud environment should define and all of these aspects. And, then comes the data. So while you are defining your data strategy, also you should look at what kind of data is there, the data transfer, the data encryption. Is it really required? Not every data you have on the cloud needs to have the same level of protection. And now that with DPDPA Act coming to being, which all my co-panelists have touched upon, the privacy aspect has suddenly also become an important consideration, right? So in addition to security, in your strategy and in your governance, you should also consider the privacy aspect, right? Of, while you are considering the data, you should also look at the data privacy angle and the security angle and design your procedures. And lastly, the resilience part, which means that, the continuity, right? The recovery in case of a disaster. Your choice of the warm, near, far site for recovery, for continuity in case of a disaster. And of course, the pandemic taught us all, without being prepared, that how important it is to recover and what all challenges can come in case such a disaster, God forbid, happens, right? And of course, having a disaster recovery in a near, far, on-prem is a mandate from most of the regulators also now. And then, the last bit of resilience is, of course, that if there is a cyber attack, right? How prepared are you to come back from it, and how soon you can, come back from it. So all these are aspects that, one needs to look at if you are going multi-cloud, because the moment you are going into a multi or hybrid, the complexity just increases.
Thank you so much, ma'am, again for sharing, the brief insight about advanced security strategies. My next question to you, Ms. Desai, can you give insights on how LTIMindtree ensures data, security, and regulatory compliances? Also, how do you plan to incorporate emerging technologies like AI and machine learning into your cloud strategies moving forward?
When we are talking about cloud, The first thing is the next step should be going automation. And when we are talking about automation, your government related all issues like carbon free and sustainability, all these issues get solved then and there only. So that gives you flexibility of going into AI and machine learning, of course. When we are talking about the risk, cloud, when you're carrying with cloud, you have just rightly said, cloud is the one thing which gives you flexibility of automation. At the same time, you have to take care of all integration, which is very important. Main thing normally people miss that going into hybrid mode, and when we are talking about collaboration between two application or two ERP systems, we are missing most of the time data exchanges, which we have to take care. So that is the main thing. I think the lesson learned of cloud migration technologies and ERP system when we are talking about.
Thank you, ma'am. I'd move on to Ms. Bajpai. Could you elaborate on the challenges you faced in ongoing management? And additionally, how do you envision the future of cloud technologies influencing the strategies and objectives of non-profit organizations like yours?
Okay, so startups and non-profit organizations, they have an advantage because they don't have legacy systems. So that's a big advantage. So you have the leeway to build up something from scratch and design certain things from scratch with a lot of planning and a lot of security inbuilt into it. So, but you know, it's easily said. But when they actually get onto it, if they do not have tech partners, then it's being done, and the results they want is fast. They want something within the next week. I need a platform to be set up ready, which is if coming from a corporate side, corporates do take time to set up their environments also. It becomes a little difficult to set up such type of environments. So what people do is do a shortcut, set up the environment, and I'll take care of security later. So those things, the SME companies should think before they actually get into that particular side. But if the person has the advantage of having a tech partner with them who can well advise them, and they have the leeway to give them some time to get things in place, I think they would be having a very wonderful environment to be set up, because it will all be on new technologies. You don't have the baggage to be carried on of old technologies. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, getting a lot of API integrations to be done and use that data instead of corporates would like to build it themselves. Coming from a corporate, I started doing NLP internally in-house, and then realized it was absolutely a waste. Why not use the other existing things which are available? So SMEs have that advantage to get the APIs integrated, and it could be, it's actually more of a pay-as-you-use. So it's not a hard hit on their capital. And again, it goes on a OPEX model. So again, it's not so very hard on the cost side of it. And that's what I've been to since the past 6 months. I've been talking to a lot of SMEs, and I see all of them are very excited about this API part of it. How do I containerize my stuff, and how do I integrate with the others and use everything? So it's a different ecosystem from the corporate environment. It's growing, and I heard a few SMEs talk today. Our lady Shweta So wonderful to hear such things happening, and I'm sure the SME segment is going to grow a lot, and into AI, of course.
Thank you so much, Ms. Bajpai. And to culminate the discussion, could you all give insightful advice for professionals and enterprises and effectively navigating the complex cloud technology landscape? This could be a navigational wisdom for prosperity. Let's start with Puneet ma'am.
So one advisory would be definitely that cloud, as I shared in the first insight, it's the need of the hour. But probably the open API architecture, microservices, consumerization, policy systems, or probably the core systems which are being taken into account, and seamless integration with third parties, which we talk about today, whether it is for regulatory or it is for non-regulatory. We should have one aspect that definitely it is very beautiful to say pay as we use, but we really need to be hard hit on terms of where exactly it is hitting on your P&L. It is an OPEX based model, but definitely do you need to see whether the kind of investment we are putting in cloud, are we reaping the benefits? It's just not only about faster go to market, it's also about where exactly it is hitting. If we have basically a functional based approach, that this is something which I will be developing as a component, deploying through a proper DevOps environment, having a pre-commitment in terms of a CI/CD pipes, that this is the deployment, this is our DevOps time, and this is in terms of peer source review, code reviews and all, then it is a seamless commitment that we have with the service provider. If I say that I want to go with only this module, and this is in the past is reaping this billing. So if I give a commitment maybe from India perspective, or this would be my projections in terms of business transactions, so kindly give me a component based billing. Then even if we have enough of hits coming outside, because anybody hitting and not getting transactional, getting conversion into transaction hits our ecosystem, and it is an OPEX, backs up, hits up on our balance sheets. So this is something which we really need to be conscious about. So this is one advisory I will give.
All right, thank you. We'll move on to you, ma'am, quickly.
So I think, before I come to this question, one of the things I missed talking about in the security aspect, and I remembered when Lekha again talked about, is API security. Not too many people are really concentrating on that, and even I see that either on the organization side or on the consultant side, people are really concentrating as much on API security as they are on the overall, say, cloud security posture management is a very, very popular term. What you want to achieve, what you need to pay out of it, pay in terms of both money as well as in terms of your efforts, in terms of your strategy, in terms of what you are giving in to that, what your regulator is mandating you to be, what your customers are mandating to be. Because sometimes some of the client contracts can restrict you from moving the data into cloud or moving your application onto the cloud, right? Then you are not able to leverage your cloud investment properly. So those are aspects you need to look at. For the startups, actually cloud has been a very big boon. I think the startup ecosystem has boomed also because of the fact that the cloud ecosystem is so well. Cloud has enabled security technologies to be utilized. Like for example, a lot of those security devices or IONSys devices, the security programs which enable a company to do, say, orchestration or analytics are all on the cloud. It would have been difficult for an organization to buy them totally, but a subscription model helps a lot of organizations to take advantage of that. So these are the directions in which cloud is moving. It is, of course, up to the organization, depending upon the sector you are in, the industry you are in, the size you are in, your vision for the next 5 to 10 years, to decide which cloud model you need to take and whether at all you need to go to the cloud. That also is a consideration. Not everybody needs to go to the cloud, everything. Okay? So you have to decide what part you need to take advantage of. And lastly, it's about sensitizing your users that before you take a decision to move some or entire part to the cloud, also consider the regulatory aspect, also remember that there is a security and technology price that is involved in that. So it is not that only the advantages. Everything has two sides of it. Yes.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Moving on to you, Ms. Desai. Quickly, share your feedback with us.
Yeah, so when we are talking about cloud, whether we want to go or not, we are discussing on that part. But we know that our support pack is going to enhance only. So but today or after a few years, you want to go or you have to go on cloud. So as you have rightly said, every time we are on a ghoda that we have to implement, and that is the pressure we are getting. So let's be optimistic, and we know that we want to go on cloud. So let's start preparing about how we want to manage our data, how we want to manage our risk, and what is the exit your end user is looking for. So start preparing it, so when the time arrives, that time you don't feel miserable, and you have your goal in front of your desk, and you can just give goal to your team to go on cloud.
All right, thank you, ladies. I think that was indeed a wonderful session. I hope you all enjoyed. Can we have a huge round of applause to all our wonderful lady panelists on the dais? And I request you all to stay back, and I would like to invite on stage Mr. Daya Prakash to kindly join us, as we would like to felicitate our women leaders in cloud technology with a token of gratitude. Applause to a wonderful panel.